Hello, everybody, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live. Darrell, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Let me share a little bit on Darrell as everybody comes in. Um, we've known each other for about 10 years. We have served in an awesome organization. Let's shout out Fred Diamond and the Institute for Excellence in Sales. Wonderful people, wonderful organization, and you're such a power there. So, Darrell, without me stealing your thunder, I've been looking up to you, your career. I love how you handle things. I love how you handle entrepreneurship, your team, your culture, sales, marketing. Can you share with us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Zev. And by the way, great to be here. And I know it's mind blowing that we've known each other for so long. I think, we're still young at heart, though. That's what I love about us. And yeah, quick hit on my background. I love that you mentioned entrepreneurial stuff. I started my career as an entrepreneur in small companies. Fast forward through a lot of different stuff that I've done. I've spent the last 12 years with Cvent, which was less than 1,000 people when I joined, and now we're about 5,000 people. And one of the things that makes our company special is that we drive a key concept down to everybody, which is intrapreneurship, right? Meaning, hey, you can't be the entrepreneur if you're working for somebody else. That's okay. But can you be an intrapreneur and shape things? And in our industry, the events industry, there's been a lot of change over the last few years. I mean, really, there's been change over 25 years, but the last five, like you've got to have that ability to be agile and be entrepreneurial in how you go about your day.
I love that. That's the thing I talk to my team all the time. And when I was younger, when right now I own my company, but when I worked for others, I always felt if I feel like I own the company, I will do a much better job. If I care like I own the company, I will do a much better job. So that's brilliant. And I'm trying really hard with my team to really work on that concept. But how do you do it? I see the culture that you guys have at Cvent. By the way, share a little bit about Cvent for the people that don't know. And then if you can, share how you guys build this amazing culture in Cvent. And I know it's not all about beer and ping pong, which you guys have, but I know it goes a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, we do have beer and ping pong, which I love, but that's not the culture. But Cvent is in the event technology space, and what we do is we help companies put on great events. Technology has become a really important thing for people that are putting on events because for event planners, they are always being asked to do more with less. And part of the issue is that executives like you and me who don't know they're like, oh, don't you just snap your fingers and it's a magical event? There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of detail of what it takes to put on a great event. And that's everything from finding the location to having a room block to getting the registration set up to giving them that right on-site experience, everything from printing a badge to having a mobile app to know where you're going. And then I know we'll touch on this as we get along a little bit, but a lot of stuff that we're doing with AI in our technology. And it's probably worth noting, like that's part of being an entrepreneur. It's part of being an entrepreneur is the world changes, right? And AI, it's here to stay. And it's not just a buzzword. There's a lot of things that we can do as sales professionals, as marketing professionals, and as event planners to help us achieve what we're trying to get to.
So I love that. The world is flipped on us, man, like truly flipped. The last 5 years have been like 20. For us that are in business, I know you guys had a tremendous change in the event scene, but all of us have seen the change. A lot of it has been remote. I don't know if you even know that. Um, I was part of one of the first virtual events you guys did for the IES um, right after COVID hit. So how did you guys not only not suffer but grow through this? Looking at Cvent and what you guys did, what your team did, what your culture did during this was amazing. Can you share with us how you did it and how you as a leader helped that process?
Yeah, I tell you, I'll boil it down to one simple thing, which was we listened and we learned and then we acted. In some cases, fast, in some cases, appropriately slow. And I'll give you a good example. We were pre pandemic a very hardcore in the office presence. Like that's what we believed in. You would walk through, we'd bring people in for interviews and they'd be like, oh my God, it's crazy. It's like people are standing at their desks and they're on the phones and they got multiple monitors. And I go, listen, I didn't turn this on because you walked in the door. It's like this every day. Pandemic hits and everybody has to go home. And that means that leadership had to have a change in mentality as well. Like how do we help inspire and get people going even when they're not right here in the office? And that's hard for us, right? Because we're used to that type of a culture. And so we listened. And when it came time for us to come back to the office, we took a little while to stamp our policy because we wanted to make sure we were doing the right thing. And so, engaging people, a lot of that had to be Zoom. We did all the crazy stuff that everybody else did, happy hours over Zoom and everything. People got tired of that. And, just like we got whiplash going into COVID, we have whiplash coming back out because all of a sudden it was a flood to, we got to be in person because there's nothing more important than human connection. It's one of the things that we have to have in our lives. And so I think a lot of it, Zev, like just listening and being mindful. We change every single day. It doesn't matter if you're a marketer. It doesn't matter if you're a sales professional. It doesn't matter what you do. We change every day. That's why I love sales for, 35 years or so.
So I just want to shout out Fred Diamond. He just commented, I'm excited to listen to two guys who know things. Fred, you're an awesome friend, entrepreneur, partner. We're sending you love, man, and thank you for introducing us because you're the reason we're here on the live. So thank you, Fred. Now, this is really interesting because I've been looking. COVID did, or what this change that happened did two things, I feel like, to companies. It either put fire under them and made them grow or made them completely stagnant. I think Cvent and you really grew. Like you took this as a challenge. We tried to do the same. Most of our LinkedIn efforts really came after all this started. So we started, instead of doing speaking in events and networking, we started using LinkedIn as kind of our hub. And we listened to our guys. We used to do 3 meetings a day in the beginning, Darrell. And my people were going crazy because we did a all team morning, all team noon, and all team kind of before going home meetings because we're all so used to being in each other's faces. But then we moved it to 2 and then to 1. And then we kind of, played with it until we found something. But I found some people are amazing working from home and some are not. So we had to make those adjustments. Can you share a little bit about how you guys maintained and grew your team during all this mess?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm going to kind of go back to cultural shifts that happen and listening and then being agile, because I think everybody on this call, regardless of what you do, it applies. So I told you we are a heavy in-person organization. When people are working from home, they may not work as hard, right? Like in sales, like what do? We talk to customers, we prospect. If you got a full schedule, you're going to be busy. It's easy to be busy when you're busy. But when you're not, are you optimizing all that time? And so we would send out metrics reports or people working hard, blah, blah, blah. It was landing on deaf ears, right? And it should, right? So we changed some of the core metrics that we were looking at. The biggest change that we made was focusing not on activity, but on pipeline added. Because if you're adding enough pipeline in sales, and that means you're going to be okay on the outside. And so we had to take note of that and just kind of measure and go to a different thing. I think, the other thing that I want to call out, and this is really just a credit to our leadership team and our CEO, Reggie Agarwal. When we went through that period of time, we watched our peers in our industry shed 50, 70%, maybe even close down. We were close to 5,000, well, probably like 4,000 people at the time. And we barely did a layoff. It was just, there were some redundancies, of course, but we took people, and they're smart people, but their job function wasn't relevant, right? So, for example, our customer success reps, they didn't have as many customers to talk to. So we put them on special products, doing a lot of analytics and data work. And it allowed us to keep our great employees until we could get to a place where we could build that back up. And it's one of the reasons why, if you're following Cvent or us, our retention rate particularly on salespeople, is outrageously high because people like the culture and they like what they do, but they trust us. And I think as entrepreneurs, as leaders, that's one of the most important things we do, if not the most important thing, is build trust with our employees.
Hey, the fact that you've been there for 12 years with how entrepreneurial you are is a statement to how amazing this company is. And I've seen how you guys have built. Like, I've seen you guys grow. And I think you're probably the major player in events in the nation today. And you guys started in 1999. Like, it hasn't been that long.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't been that long. It goes by in a blink of an eye. It's kind of crazy. And again, my chosen profession is sales, and I do a lot more than that today. But we just have to be. We have to be changing. And I see some questions in the chat about AI, and that is a big thing right now. Maybe we talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So let's talk about your team and how you involved AI in sales, if you involved AI in sales, and how does that work for you guys? How do you see AI and its place within sales?
There's a couple of different ways to use AI. One is to buy off-the-shelf products that already have AI incorporated. And some people don't even realize it's AI until you explain it to them, right? And then there are other things and processes that you can build that use AI. So let me give you an example of that. First thing we did was we stood up an instance of Microsoft's version of ChatGPT, right? So we wanted something that was secure, which is why we went that path. And we turned it loose on sales reps. And we said, hey, use this for things like creating emails. It's probably one of the biggest things. Like, all of us are guilty of, oh my God, what have I been doing for the last 30 minutes? I've been trying to write this email and like, I just want to get it perfect. But you could use AI for a lot of that. And let me give you an example of this on the marketing side. So we had a deadline to run an AI initiative. And we needed to basically create 113 unique emails. And we couldn't write 113 unique emails. They were to different verticals. They were to different segments of the industry, different profiles, personas. And we had AI do it. And we got the emails out. They weren't great. We didn't get the intended impact that we wanted. And so we went back to the drawing board and said, hey, can we use AI and supplement it and get a little more human element to it? And the result was amazing, right? So you're getting out the emails, you're being quicker, but you're also going to have to add that personal touch because look, at the end of the day, we are really a human world, right? Like, you can't use technology to solve for everything, but you can use it to solve a lot of problems. I'll tell you the other thing that we're using AI a lot for, particularly on the marketing side, is data analysis and helping us target the right accounts. And so, we're running scripts that kind of help profile companies. Is it the right fit? We will use that. Marketing will run analysis on the prospect universe and say, hey, these are better prospects because it meets these criteria. Maybe you could do it in a Google search back in the day, but it wasn't very precise. Today, you can get really, really precise with that. Another thing we'll do on sales is, hey, tell me about ABC companies' events that they put on. And it's crazy what comes back and how accurate it is. Now, it's not perfect. So I think with AI, it's one thing that we really, really have to be mindful of is it's not perfect. It still requires you to do some work. RFPs are the same way. And I know you guys use a lot of AI in your RFP tools.
We use a lot of AI in sales. Let me share with you a little bit how we use AI in sales for us and for clients. So we have what we call a sales agent. So you and I both know, like you said, salespeople take half an hour writing one email. And salespeople, after they call 10 people and get bad rejects, they're almost like useless for the rest of the day unless they're very tough and know what they're doing. So what we do is we take that initial part and we build an AI that supports a salesperson. So that AI, together with leadership, builds the emails, builds the segmentation, builds the cadence, and then the AI goes and does the initial email. It can do an initial social media message, let's say on LinkedIn, and it can do a voice drop in the voice of that salesperson saying, hey, just sent you an email, wanted to do a personal voice drop and tell you, take a look, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. So that part, we can do 500 a day. No salesperson is going to do it right 500 times a day. But we're not taking the salesperson out of the loop. We're just taking the first step, getting them to get the action, get the pipeline going, and then have them monitor everything that happens. So salespeople, and you probably know it best, don't like to do the actions that don't give them the result that they want. In the beginning, nothing gives us the result that they want. So we use an AI to automate all of that with the tone of the salesperson's actual voice, and then the salesperson can actually deal with a lot more actual leads, which all of us want to deal with actual leads. The other thing that is cool is we have our salespeople load all of their data into a knowledge base, and then we see how much money you're generating per hour per client, which is so powerful. Sometimes you think that these clients are great and you sit on all these meetings and you love feeling like you're important, but there's actually not much into it. And then this client you barely pay attention to, you're making like 10 grand in every hour you spend on him. So those two things that we're doing right now in sales are working really, really well. And you got to know salespeople, and you got to put the AI where they're not good so they get more of what they want. So you got to make the AI, a partner and not a competition, if you will.
And I love that, Zev. And said slightly differently, like the one thing that we all have in common is we have 24 hours in a day, and we got to sleep, and we got to spend time with our family. I have to drink bourbon, play pickleball. I know you share those same passions, at least the pickleball side of it. But we have to be efficient. And what do you want your high value, highly compensated sales professionals to do? You want them to be talking to customers, right? And we used to always say, still do, like, go where the receptivity is high. Like, you can go bash your head up against a wall in an unintelligent fashion. You haven't done any research before you get on a call. You don't know if this is a good prospect. But if you know what the good ones are, and that's where AI comes into play, it can help filter out and prioritize who you're going to call on. But then you've got the right people doing the right high value things. We say that same thing with event technology, right? If your event planners are focused on manually working in spreadsheets and looking at record counts and stuff like that, you know what they're not able to do? They're not able to focus on the experience that the attendees are having. They're not able to handle some of the things that are really high value. And so that's part of where it goes. And there's a couple questions in the chat about AI and how we're using that in our technology. And I'll give you a couple.
Let me share this question from my good friend Diane from Axoni. Yeah. I should probably introduce you guys. What AI tool are you using for the marketing analysis of companies? Is this incorporating an ABM strategy?
There are a couple things that we're using, Diane. It's a pleasure to meet you. Let's connect on LinkedIn afterwards, and would love to get to know you a little better. Like I said, there's some technologies that we have in-house that we're developing ourselves, and we do that on the Microsoft stack of ChatGPT, and we'll use that to run scripts. There's also off-the-shelf tools. One of the ones that we're using today that we really like, but we're going through a refinement process right now, is using 6 Sense. So 6 Sense basically allows you to identify what's going on, on the dark web, if you will. Like, it's not, you don't get an MQL, you don't get buying signals directly because they're on third-party sites. So we can look at, hey, they're looking at these competitors, they're looking at G2. And it will score those. So that's something that we're using to help take and create MQLs without actually having to send them an email or get them to respond to a LinkedIn post. So those are the two things that we're doing.
6 Sense is a great tool. It's not inexpensive by any but it's good. It does an amazing job. So Diane, that's a great tool to use, and definitely connect with one another on LinkedIn. Let's have another question here. How does Cvent integrates AI marketing tools and platforms to provide cohesive strategy for event promotion? I know you're more on the sales side, but can you answer this, or do you have how to answer this?
I can't speak to all the marketing tools. We've got a big stack of tools that we use, and more leaning in towards AI. But things like leveraging AI for personalization is a big thing, and also working it into our workflows. And I could probably get some of what they're using for that in order to get it back to you. But it's a lot of those things again that are just trying to take some of the manual lift out of the process.
That's great. Let's take another question. How can post-event analysis and feedback sessions help with maintaining and improving your sales team's performance for future event? Great question, Joshua. So how does the post-event analysis with AI, I assume Joshua is asking, is helping the performance of sales?
Yeah, it's a great question, Josh. And, it's one of the things that we're doing more now than we did in 2019, pre-pandemic, even though even in 2019, we have a vast amount of data. But now what we're doing is we're leveraging tools that we can build out better reports, better insights. We have a survey product that's built into our tool, but just collecting survey data isn't enough, because most people don't know how to read survey data or don't know how to make heads or tails of it. This is where AI-driven engines can help with that, right? So what is this telling me? There was another question that was asked earlier by, I think it was Newman. And he's got another question up here, and I hope I'm saying it right. It's Newman or Noman. Apologies. It's one of the things that we're really excited about, and I'm sharing a little bit off the reservation here because we haven't released it yet, but we are talking about it, is when we're building an AI engine on our in-person tools like the mobile app. And we're looking at when you go to an event and you check into the event, then you check into a session, you stop by a booth and talk to somebody, you're in an exhibit area, you meet somebody, you add them as a connection. And what we're doing is we're taking all that data and then creating individual personalized recaps for each person. You went to these sessions, you took these notes, and it gives them a snapshot. And this is important for a couple of reasons. One is every one of us, we go to an event, we come out, we're semi-blurry from the last 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is. And it helps kind of cement and retain. That's a really big thing, right? If you're able to retain from a conference, you're going to get value. But the conference organizer also gets value when people are retaining information. The other thing, and this was kind of an unintended benefit that we saw, is they now can build a business case and a justification to their boss as to why it was important for me to go to this event.
That's brilliant. So this is Numan's latest question. With the growing popularity of virtual event, how does Cvent ensure that online attendees are as engaged and integrated to those like the in-person people? So I know that's not exactly what you deal with, but how do you guys create virtual events like this event that we're doing here and make sure people are really engaged and get what they need out of it?
Yeah. I'm going to answer that question slightly different. And I'm going to take it back to something that's not Cvent events related, our product, but more how we run our business. Because I think it will apply to just about everybody here. So I mentioned earlier, we have a hybrid culture here. We're in the office 2 days a week. We come in on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And we have a large extended senior management group that is meeting monthly. We pick a topic and we meet. And what we used to do is we'd take 50 of us and we'd put us in one conference room, and then we'd have some people that are virtual, right? And the virtual people just weren't able to participate. There was just too much chaos. So what we've done on our last 3 or 4 is we've broken the team in the office up into 3 or 4 different conference rooms. And then you've got people remote. So now, even when people are in the office and they're in a room with, 5 to 7 people, but it really makes them much more dynamic. So it's a great way. If you're having hybrid meetings and you can balance it out a little bit, but still benefit from the engagement that happens in a room when people are in person, that's great. And we're trying to do the same thing with events. But I think what we're seeing now, to answer more of that part of the question, you don't see as many hybrid events. Like I'm doing it in person and virtual, because that is very, very expensive for people to put on, right? You got food and beverage, you got, the production. And so what we see more of is people doing one or the other. Now, what I will do when I go to events, I always sign into the virtual piece while I'm sitting in a room. And that is really, really fun and amazing to see because somebody will say something like, oh, wow, this is really great. I wish I was in a room. And I'm like, yes, I'm in the room. And let me tell you, here's what's going on. Or they'll ask like, hey, something seemed to happen in a room. What was that? And I go, I'm in a room. Here's what happened. And so if you get people that are engaging online in the virtual piece too, it really does help bring everybody together.
That's great. Ian is asking, how has AI enhanced your events, i.e., participation, engagement, attendance value? Before you answer this, I want to take us a little shot. So, gamification and immersive experience are getting so big in what you guys do. I would love for you to answer, Ian, and I would love for you to also share with us if you're using any immersive experience or gamification in order to get people to be more immersed in your events.
Yeah. So a couple things. I think, the engagement, it's funny. We used to say, why do people go to events? And people would go to consume content. And then it kind of evolved a little bit to, hey, people go to events for two reasons, to engage in the content and learn, but also to network with peers. Now, the networking side has surpassed the content side. Content's still really, really important. But when you really ask the question 2 or 3 levels deeper, what you find is what they really value is being able to network, and that's engagement. So what do we do on that? A couple things. One, in our mobile app, we do 2 things. One, the ability to connect with people, engage with the sessions, but we also have gamification built in there. So the gamification piece for us, we do 2 ways. One is engaging with the app. Add a new contact, make a connection, add a session to your schedule. Why do we do that? That seems kind of silly because people then get engaged in the app, and then that means they get more engaged in the event, and they're going to get more value out of it. That's the whole promise and value of technology. You can't just have technology. You have to use technology. You can't just have AI as a headline of, we like AI. You have to engage with it. You have to use it. So that's one part of gamification. And the other part of gamification is having things like bingo card, right? Where you got to go see different exhibitors or answer different questions. But again, the goal there is to get them to engage in the event. When you're on site and you're at an event, you as a presenter really need to make sure that you're immersing your people in something that's valuable for them.
That's a great answer. We got a bunch of questions popping up. Let's get a few of them on. So Preston is asking, what methodologies within AI do you use to maximize team productivity on Cvent? Is that something you can answer?
I'm not sure I fully understand. I'm not really sure I understand that question. Could you translate it for me, Zev?
Well, I think what Preston is asking is, how are you getting your people to use AI to maximize their productivity? For instance, in my team, I almost beat on them. Like, you gotta use it. Okay. If you have a question for me, before you call me, just put that on ChatGPT or put that on a closed AI system or put it on something that knows my persona and say, hey, I'm going to send it to Zev. How should I improve it? I consistently tell them, like, if you're doing something on AI, tell the AI to improve it. For instance, my guys know if you take the first response an AI gives you, you're going to hear from me because I'll figure it out, and it's completely not what you're supposed to do. So these habits and that's what I'm thinking Preston is meaning.
Yeah.
How do you bring in AI to make sure that it maximizes your team productivity?
Yeah. That first of all, that's a great translation. Now that you said it out loud, I'm like, of course that's what he meant. I'm going to start calling you API now instead of Zev. So, listen, I think this is a really important part of the cultural aspect of a company is you have to get people to share success stories and what they're doing. And we do a lot of that. We do it in open forums. We do it in emails. I believe that you lead teams and you manage individuals, right? Leading teams means you give everybody a common vision and have them attack it as a team. And then each individual piece person does their thing. It's kind of like, hey, if you don't want your offensive lineman playing quarterback, and you definitely don't want to put your quarterback on the offensive line. People have to do their things. But when people do great things, we like to share it across the company, not just in the sales team, but how does sales and marketing work together? Like, those have to be your friends. Sales and customer success, the people that are serving your clients on the back end. And so we do a lot of sharing. And then we also run contests, right, where we'll say, hey, submit your AI ideas. We're owned by Blackstone. Blackstone bought us last June, and they just did. Thank you. We're very excited about that. They've been a great partner. They, like any good partner, they push you and they push us, but in the right ways. They're very respectful about it. But they are very interested in AI, of course, and they've got a large portfolio of companies. And they did a challenge across all their portcos, and we were one of the winners of that. And we submitted, I think, more than any other portfolio company. But the reason that happened was because we had already promoting that as something that we need to do and running internal contests. And a lot of it is just getting people to think through it. If they're thinking through it, and they'll try. Like, this is brand new stuff. Nobody knows it. Like, we're breaking through new boundaries. I started in the cellular business in 1990. Nobody had them. Nobody wanted them. They didn't work. They were expensive. And they're like, what's the playbook? There was no playbook. We had to go figure it out. And that's what AI is right now. There's a lot of people that will stick their head up above the crowd because they're getting in there and playing with it. They're making mistakes. They're figuring it out. They're iterating. But I think giving all those things high visibility will drive adoption.
I think the fact that you've been through so much, and you started as like a cell phone, basically salesperson without people having cell phones, makes you understand. Because I remember in those days, people used to say, oh, if you put it next to your head, it's going to kill you in 2 years. All these things, same things that AI is going to kill us all. AI is going to take over the planet, take our jobs, take our food, whatever. So we've seen these cycles. We've seen them with computers. We've seen them with cell phones. We've seen them with smartphones. And now we're seeing it with AI. It's just so fast. Like, I truly think you have a choice. You either adapt or you're going to stay behind, because there's no way to get. When I look at life a few years ago, I don't even know how I used to do stuff without AI. Like, I don't even know. I don't know how we used to we were talking about this before the show. I was super busy responding to an RFP that I did within 48 hours, and it was a complicated RFP. I could have never done it without AI. It would have taken me 2 weeks. Okay. So I don't even know how we used to do things. It's just revolutionized things so much. Daniel here has a question. Do you have any tips for driving social media engagement after an event has taken place, or ways to keep the hype going in between recurring events?
Social media is certainly an important part of that. And not to toot our own horn, but like, we're doing a lot of that in our products, right? It was one of the things that was a benefit of the pandemic is we built some new technologies that, are digital related, right? So that means virtual, but having a space where you're promoting the next big event. And you can run AI scripts on that, same as you can, outside of events for something like, using marketing automation, right? So you can get very creative and specific and personalized in how you're reaching out to people in between events and keeping that energy high. We do it in our technology through push notifications, through social media pushes. This is one of the things that drives me crazy, though. Like, I get these calls. I know you do too. And I hear some of them and I'm horrified. Like, how can you pick up a phone call and call somebody and have it be so benign? Like, it doesn't take long to do some research. Use your AI tools to find something out about somebody. I mean, you could use LinkedIn too, but use AI instead, because you're just going to get a more robust answer than you would otherwise.
AI will use LinkedIn. This drives me nuts, man. I'm not kidding, I get hundreds of sales calls and LinkedIn messages and emails. And sometimes they try to sell me my own products. Like, you haven't seen what I do. It's just, it's really crazy. So thank you for answering that. You have a fan here, Molly. says that she's happy she's made it. She's a great fan. Diane says thank you. And we have another question from Numan. Thanks for sharing that. If you're comfortable, could you share some effective tactics your team at Cvent are using for acquiring new clients in the competitive event market? Great question, Numan.
Yeah, I love this question. And I'll tell you what I tell my sales reps. Integrity and transparency. That's what it is. Because there's a lot of salespeople out there that are just in it for themselves. Like, are you genuinely curious? Do you want to go in and learn? This is a story from a little while ago, but I think it plays true. We were working with a client and we're working through it. We couldn't quite get there, and the sales rep, sent him a note and said, "Listen, I just don't think we're a fit here. Like, we like each other and we're trying to figure it out, but I just don't think it's the right fit. There were just some technology issues that we couldn't come." And rather than trying to push a sale and get it done, he backed off. This guy then sent a note to his entire team and copied me and said, "This is a guy that I will seek out and do business with because he's trying to do the right things." So I almost don't like the word tactics, because that almost implies that you're trying to do something tricky. Like, look, and we've all done it if you've been in sales for a little while.
If I may, instead of tactics, let's put habits.
Habits. All right. I like that. So look, I think some of the habits, this one's never going to go away. People, you got to work hard, right? Like, you just have to. And to me, this is a learning thing, right? Like, you hear sales is a numbers game. It is a numbers game, but it's not just throw a bunch of junk up against the wall and see what sticks. Numbers is really like, am I finding the right people? And there's timing that gets involved. There's budgets that get involved. That's why you do a lot of work. So you can find the right opportunities. And then the right habit, to use your word, is find the ones who have a need and they want to solve it. If they don't have a need, don't waste your time. If they have a need, but you can tell if they don't want to solve it just by the things that you're telling you. And I believe in truth serum. So I would actually say to the client, go, "Look, it sounds like you got a problem, but I don't get the sense that it's something that is critical for you to solve. Might be nice to solve, but it's not really critical." If they come back and they'll go, "You're probably right." Or they come back and they say, "No, I really need to solve it, and here's why." And you shake them up a little bit. So transparency selling is critical today.
I love that, dude. I can tell where you're so successful in what you do, and it's so. I go into sales meetings sometimes that my sales people, and I was like, pardon my French, why the heck am I on this call? Like, they don't even want to talk to me. Like, why am I on this call? I'm on the call because, the sales team thought that they were a great, target, that they make a lot of money and they probably need our services, but they don't want to talk to us. So I only talk to people that want to talk to me. If they don't want to talk to me, I don't have time to convince them why they need to do marketing or why they need to work with AI. If they have a need, so I love what you're saying. And then be yourself and don't be afraid. So this is something, when I was a young salesperson, I loved to close, right? So that case that you just mentioned, I would have pushed and pushed and pushed and closed, and it wouldn't fit, and it would be problems. It would show up on my, on my scores, but it would be not profitable, painful, etc. So yesterday I had something. I just sent a big offer, and the guy came back, and I was like, "Do you have any questions?" He's like, "No, it's just too expensive." I was like, "Okay, what do you mean? Do you have any questions? Like, what's too expensive?" And he's like, "No, I know you guys do amazing work, blah, 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 but it's just too expensive." And I was like, "Okay, do you have any questions? Because I think you need the service, but maybe not." And he's like, "No, I don't have any questions." I was like, "All right, well, if you're interested, let us know." Done. Like, I'm not gonna start begging. We do amazing work. We charge the right prices. You reached out to me. If you want the help, yes. If you don't want, great. This is something that from my past. There is a lot of times, especially when you deal with men that have this importance to themselves, and they give you this price objection. I used to say something like, "Well, not everybody can afford it." And I remember how egos used to get involved. No, we can afford it. Yeah, hold on. Let's make sure that you know that I can afford this. So I know this is a little bit of digression, but that's just something I wanted to throw in there.
Yeah, it's it's just important. This is why I love the career that I've chosen for sales. And but let me tell you what I'm also telling my salespeople right now: stop acting like a salesperson and act like a business person. Right? Like, can we mutually solve a problem here? That's really all it is, and it's why I love where the profession has gone. When I started in sales in 1990, it was not necessarily an honorable profession. There were a lot of cheats, a lot of liars, a lot of slickness going on out there. It's completely different today. Universities are running programs for professional sales. I actually sit on the board at Virginia Tech for their sales program. You've got groups like the Institute for Excellence in Sales, Fred Diamond, who you called out earlier, who has built a whole business on supporting a sales community. And it's not about doing tactics, it's about doing habits, right? It's like, how do you build the right foundational things? And I think that's why it has become a much more honorable profession, right?
Absolutely. And I'll have to not end, but share this. I love Kobe Bryant. Huge fan of the late and great Kobe Bryant. And the thing that made him so great is he wasn't more talented than everybody else. He wasn't taller than everybody else. He couldn't jump higher than everybody else. Didn't have bigger hands or bigger legs, or he just did more. And he just worked super hard, but also work smart. You know, I see people that work really, really hard, but are not using their mind and not learning from what they're doing. Okay. I think in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there's that example of the peanut salesperson. He goes every day from sun up to sundown selling peanuts in a bad neighborhood. Okay. He will never get what he wants. So working hard is one thing, and working smart, I think, is something that everybody needs to think in this age of AI. There are just better ways to do something. Now, this has been so much fun. We've been over 40 minutes here. Now, everybody, if you need to reach out to Darrell, okay, how do you do that? And everybody that needs any kind of help in events, whether they're in person, virtual, wants to reach out to Darrell, how do we do that, my friend?
I think LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. I check my direct messages. I'd start there. If you're connecting to me, if you wouldn't mind, please just say, "Hey, I was on Zev's podcast today, the LinkedIn Live," so I know, because I do actually try to make sure that I'm connecting with people that I have a reason to connect with. But and look, I've been doing this for long enough now. I'd love to sell you something, but also, like, there's a lot of great questions here. And if you want to take those offline, like, I just believe in sharing. I believe in helping our industry of sales get better. I'm very passionate about helping young folks find their way into the workplace. A lot of that is just a give back, but I'd love to hear from folks. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. And then one thing that I want to ask from you, based on everybody's questions, can you give some tips of people that are trying to grow their career? How, because you've done such an amazing job. What tips do you have for the people that are watching, maybe that are a little younger or trying to grow their career? What can you tell them?
I got a couple that I'd love to share. I'll start with something I've already mentioned, which is hard work. I've got a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old. And by the way, AI came along right at the right time, because I do not know how to handle a 17-year-old daughter. My wife and I are just like, oh. So I got to ask some AI questions. But what I tell them is, like, that there's a lot of people that just don't work hard today. And you know what that means? That means that there's an opportunity for people that are working hard to get ahead. Working hard gives you a competitive advantage, because you're also going to get more educated. That's how I learned a cellular business. I outworked everybody, learned a lot, and the next thing I know, I'm an expert in the industry, which was really weird at 24 years old. That's number one. Number two, be genuinely curious. Be curious. Right? I'm asking questions all the time, and I ask them because I genuinely don't understand it. Like, the world's gone through a lot of changes. Like, I have to ask questions about DEI and how do we properly engage I got a lot of women salespeople, but like I had to change how I was engaging with them. I had to, right? It wasn't that I didn't like it, but like you got to go meet people where they are, where they want to be, and so that's really really important. So be curious. The third thing is engage. I think it's too easy to hide today. When you're on a Zoom, for example, you don't want to say anything, but like the people who engage, you know, people notice. And so I think those are big things too. Let me stop there. That's three that I think if people are doing those three things, they're going to find their career takes a different path.
I love that. I'll add something that's a little bit more general. Whatever you want in life, do in life. Okay. So if you want people to support you, support other people. Okay. So I would go on people like Darrell or other people that you look up to and support what they're doing on LinkedIn. Okay. They will notice you there. Give out of yourself. The amount that you give is the amount that you'll receive. And the amount of contribution you give to the market, to your friends, to your colleagues, that's what you're going to get back. And what is annoying me sometimes with, we hire a lot of people all the time and they want to be compensated immediately for everything they do. That's just not how the world works, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not. You gotta do the work. You gotta overwork in the beginning. You gotta do extra stuff in order to get to where you want to go. Okay, it's not all about I need to be compensated for that action I'm doing right now. Okay, like you said, and I love that. I'm almost going to ask you to maybe spend some time with our head of sales because you're so brilliant. Don't act as salespeople, act as business people, and act as if you own the business that you represent. Like truly put that hat on. You may not be the owner, but if you act as one day you will be. Maybe not of that company, but of another. So, kind of fake it till you make it in a better way, but put that hat on. Be proud of what you're doing. I see you do that all the time, man. Like all the time. We have a couple. Fred just said thank you to Daniel, and Fred just told us 3 great ones. Always be curious. Absolutely, dude. You're amazing. You're smart. You're genuine. Your advice, every single one, just hit. Here, and Nell says she loves the insights as well. I really appreciate you. I would love to do this again, and thank you so much, everybody. Please reach out. Follow Cvent, and if you have any needs in any types of events, Cvent is a place to go. And Darrell, you've been awesome and amazing. I feel privileged that we're friends, and I would love to do this again.
This was awesome, and I just love seeing all the comments and in the chat. I was going to try to respond in, but I can't, so I'll just say thank you here in a voice. It's authentic. I do love what I do because of the people and how we engage with them, how we shape outcomes, how we influence people. So listen, I'll close with, I wish everybody success in whatever you're doing, and success can come in a lot of flavors. To me, it's happiness. So like you said, Zev, like do what you want to do, right? Do what you want to do.
Do what you want to do. I'll end with association is key. Associating with wonderful people like you, man, make me a better man. So thank you. Last comment of the day. Christian Curry says, incredible insight. Thank to both of you. Christian, thank you very, very much. You've been amazing. Everybody, thank you. We'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll drag Darrell here maybe in a couple of months again. Thank you, my friend.